In last week's episode of Akram's Ideas,
I'm going to give you an honest craft room tour of my sewing room.
and now the epic continuation of the Honest Craft Room Sewing Room Tour.
On the other side of the sewing room, the next thing that I wanted to kind of show off is my cutting table. And I'm going to bend down so you can see me. This table is actually my husband's dining room table before we got married, and even after we got married, until we bought a really nice dining room table that seats 12, which is great for Thanksgiving. But we had this other dining room table, and since we weren't using it, I snagged it up as my cutting room table. And it does have a leaf in it, and when I originally got it, I was just sort of using a space that was a dual purpose, and so I couldn't use the leaf in it. But since moving to our new house where I have a dedicated sewing room, I have the leaf inside here. And one of the things that I got for my birthday a year or two ago was this wonderful cutting mat. It is 36 inches long, or 36 inches tall by 60 inches wide. And it fits almost perfectly on this table. It hangs off just a hair or two, but it fits the tabletop perfectly. This particular cutting mat isn't anything fancy. It's from Joann Fabrics, and it's not one of those really nice cutting mats. It is self-healing, but it does have a lot of marks in it, so it doesn't heal as nice as some of the other ones. But it is a huge cutting mat, and I had like a 50% off coupon and a gift card, and basically in the end I bought this mat for like $17. I think they usually run about $60 or something. So like I said, I had the 50% off, and then I had a $20 gift card or something like that. And so this was a birthday present to myself. On the cutting mat right now is the little quilt that I'm making for my nephew, which I will be showing a little how-to video later on about. Also on my cutting table here are my pattern weights, which are actually welding triangles. I got these at Harbor Freight, which is a hardware store, and I've gotten a couple of things from Harbor Freight actually as far as tools go, because you can sometimes get hardware a little bit cheaper than you can craft supplies. And in this case, these are what they call welding triangles. It's magnetic all the way around, and you can like put your piece of metal on here and then weld to it. And so you can create like 90-degree angles or 45-degree angles, and they're weighted so that you don't slip while you're welding. Well, I was able to get a pack of 4 for about $4, and they are pretty nifty. They work really well because of the weight. They're flat. I can set them on the patterns. And because they're magnetic, they pick up any loose pins and everything. So I've been really happy with those. They're pretty large too, so I can get away with just the 4 on almost anything that I cut out, just positioning them in an accurate position. Down here underneath the table, first off, I have this white tablecloth on top of the sewing table, mainly for taking photos, because I found that the table, as you can see, is kind of this light wood type color. I found that the wood color was showing through on the cutting mat whenever I took photos, and it just didn't look very nice. So I put the white tablecloth on top of it just so that I'd have a more even white backdrop whenever I'm taking photos of my sewing projects. But underneath here, I've got a couple of different bins of things. The larger bins have some specialty fabric in there, like corduroy or lace, things that I don't work with very often. Over on this side, I have these little pull-out drawers at the end, which has my entire collection of zippers. And I'm actually going to step back here so you can see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 drawers worth of zippers. And these are all vintage zippers. I actually went to an antique store once where they were selling them for like 20 cents. And so I grabbed the whole box and I was like, well, how much for the whole box? And the lady started counting it up and eventually gave up and said, just take it for $20. So I have a ton of zippers and I've got them separated by size. So it goes 7, 9, 12 and 14, 16, 18. Actually, I take that back. I had too many. So 12 and 14, 16, 18, 20, 22 and 24. And then I have invisible zippers and then open zippers for like coats and stuff. And that's what's underneath the table. Over here on this side of the room is this little stand is actually an ironing board that has a little cabinet that opens up inside here that I usually put projects in progress or little scrap fabrics in. On top is where I keep my MacBook, which I use to watch YouTube videos, and it's also where I stream my old-timey radio shows while working in the sewing room. Many of you have seen my wall of fabric before. As you can see, the fabric goes up all the way to the ceiling. On the wall of fabric, I also have shop lights that I just got for a few dollars at Walmart. And basically these are all daylight bulbs and they just help to give light. They're interchangeable, so I can move them in different directions. I can aim the light up, I can aim it towards the cutting table, and this way I can get more light in the room. Also on my wall of fabric here, the very top shelf has a couple of different things. I've got my computer speakers kind of wired all the way through here so that I can listen to music or my radio shows while sewing. I also have my sewing book collection, some over here, some over here. If you're interested, in the comments below, let me know and I'll do a sewing book sewing book review video, I guess you could say. I've got some really interesting ones, and in fact I actually have one from like 1934, 1936. So that's kind of neat there. I also have a couple of jars of buttons. I've got some buttons over here. This box is full of buttons. And I've got some more buttons over in the corner. This corner, I have Taylor, my mannequin, over here. And I think she's fallen a little bit. I think she's gone down. I have another little mannequin that I haven't gotten a stand for yet, so she's actually in the other room. Over here, I have some binders, which is where I keep all my PDF patterns. And it looks like a mess, really, but what I do is I'll put in these little sheet protectors, I'll put the instructions, and then in a second sheet protector, I'll put all the pattern pieces. And I've got a ton of different PDF patterns now that I've put those in. I've also got a collection here of vintage magazines. For example, I've got this one here, which is Better Homes and Gardens from February 1929. So a couple of these magazines I really need to get frames for so that they're not just setting out. And one thing a lot of you guys might be familiar with that I have is the Kurla Fashion Designer Kit. Now, I actually had this when I was a kid. When I was about 14 or so, I actually got this like as a birthday Christmas gift. I can't remember which. But, of course, growing up, things got sold at a garage sale. You forget about it. And I found this at an antique store for like a few dollars. And I was like, I want this. Obviously, it comes with the little stencils so that you can do your own sketches, and I think it's just great to use the stencils to do your inspirational photos is how you want your outfit to work for. I know it's something from my childhood, but I couldn't resist. I thought it was hilarious that I found it. And I was like, I want to use this for my sewing. And so in the far corner over here, I have a small collection of Hobbie dolls that were given to me by my mother-in-law. And I thought the perfect place for a Hobbie doll would obviously be in the Hobbie craft room. They are actually standing on a Coca-Cola shelf. It's got like a little Coca-Cola emblem on it. I also have this really cute frog vase that I picked up at an antique store. I didn't need him, but he looked so lovable. As well as Petunia Gardner here, which is what I named her. She's a little vase. And she was just so adorable. So I had to get her, and I've just put in some lovely little fake flowers on her. I also have over here my IKEA lamp. That's just a little flower that I got at IKEA. Continuing on this side of the room, I have my marker board, which I actually use mostly for filming. I will write down parts of the things that I want to talk about in my videos, anything that I need to make note of. I have this little memory board here that has a couple of different little things on here, including my lovely little pin from Poppy Ray that I won in a giveaway. I haven't actually worn it yet. I really want to, but it's so pretty, and I love how I've got it hung up here. I collect a lot of Coca-Cola memorabilia, and so I've got this lovely Coca-Cola clock right there. This is also my ironing station, so I've got my ironing board here, my iron, and I just have a pretty basic Black & Decker iron with a steam and spray feature. It's pretty nice. It hasn't had any problems. If I decide to upgrade irons, I would like to get one that is cordless because I always feel like I'm tripping over the wire. So that's what's here. And typically what ends up happening if I'm not using the ironing board, it becomes a collect doll. So I did my sewing plans video not too long ago, and I got all the fabric out for my plans, and I've just sort of set them right here on the ironing board for the time being. Above the closet in this room is a little plaque that says Tagavizade, which is a plaque that my dad made when he was in college. He took like a woodworking class. And as you know, I am Akram Tagavi Burris. Well, Tagavi is my maiden name, and it actually used to be Tagavizadeh, which is the full name. At some point in time, my parents decided to shorten the name. The story is that the last name is actually Tagavi, and the Zadeh part of it just is sort of like, it translates to be especially. So you're especially Tagavi. And so my dad was like, it's just too long, let's drop the especially part. So instead of Tagavi Zadeh, it was Tagavi. However, all through kindergarten, I went to school as Akram Tagavizadeh. And by the end of the year, all the little kindergartners was able to say my full last name, which is pretty fun, I think. Anyways, that's the plaque that my dad made. I really loved it, and so I kept it all these years. And so that's up there above my closet. So in the closet, I actually have the case to my Bernina up there at the very top. I have a bunch of quilt batting and polyfibe stuff. I made a couple of little stuffed animal stuff for my niece and some pillows, and so that's why I have the polyfibe. I have the quilt batting for the quilt that I'm working on. I've got some more fabric in here. I've got a ton more fabric. Look at that. I got all this fabric on hangers. On that shelf in there, if I can zoom in. I have some pattern books, and I bought these, like I said, at antique stores. Some of them are from the late 80s, early 90s, but I've got some that go back as far as the 1960s, like 69. I've got a couple of 71s. 2 is not a pattern book. 2 are, one is a Montgomery Ward's catalog and one is a Sears catalog. And I think it's the Ward's catalog, which is like 1958 or something like that. And then my horrible secret of a mess is this. On the floor here, I have a couple of boxes. It's just horrible. This box here, if I can get to it. This box here is my tracing paper. And what I use for tracing paper is actually what they call spa paper. It's the same type of material that they put on like doctor offices beds or spa beds so that you don't get contaminated from patient to patient. But it works just like tracing paper, and I had actually read about this on a sewing forum that somebody said that you can get this, and it's fairly long. It's about 3 feet maybe wide, but you could get like hundreds of feet. I don't know how, I forget how long this roll is, but you can get it for like $10 on Amazon, which is exactly what I did, and I keep it in there to keep it clean. But here at the bottom of this mess are some boxes of old clothes that everybody's like, here, have some fabric to play with. There are some baskets. I've got some purse handles in there because I didn't know where else to put them. I've got this little pull-out tray here, or this pull-out container, which I'm using as scraps. So anytime I have a lot of leftover fabric that doesn't really fit a size of anything, I'm actually cutting them into squares, whatever size square or rectangle I can actually cut them into, and saving them for like maybe possible quilting type projects. And so that's what's in that container. And yeah, so I don't even want to really talk about the closet. So that is it as far as my sewing room tour goes. I'm really fortunate to have one whole room dedicated to sewing crafting. I think it's a really functional space with the use of the large cutting table, a space for my iron, and then of course the pegboard on the opposite wall here is probably my favorite feature because all my tools are at a hand's reach away, and even though the place is kind of messy a lot of times, I am making a very big effort to put all my tools back to where I got them. So all my rulers are always in the same place, all my tape measures, scissors, everything goes back when I'm through with it. So it's been really, really easy to find anything that I'm looking for at any time. I'd love to hear in the comments below if you have any questions about the sewing room, or if there's something in the room that you spotted that you have a question about. Feel free to ask. I love watching sewing room tours, and I'm always on the lookout for new ones. So if you've done a sewing room tour, put your link in the comments below. I love watching those. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Akram's Ideas, and if you did, be sure to give us a big thumbs up. Don't forget to follow Akram's Ideas on social media or subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching!